needs to be, you might as well raise it and keep it there.
Should have started lifting weights earlier. Hi, my name's Ed Coban, for those of you who don't know me. I got a lot of Fran stories I can't tell because there's still folks in the witness protection program that are in trouble. But one of the ones that stuck out to me most recently was, first let me step back for a second. There's a lot of guys in this room and a lot of folks that I've seen over the last couple of days that were Fran disciples from every level on, from freshmen, from when I can remember at HPE all the way at Jenny F, SNAP, and then the high school, all the way up. There were coaches that literally learned their craft from what I would say one of the master leaders of all time. And they helped to mold me into a person that I'm very proud of today. And when I get the opportunity now to talk football and sports, which we do a lot at our cafe, I am so old school it's not even funny. And it's all because of what these gentlemen taught me in their own ways, and I didn't even know I was learning. I didn't know I was learning what they were preaching and teaching all along the way. But I had the opportunity, Maria and I, my girlfriend and business partner, went down to a wedding in Philadelphia about a month ago, and we decided to go over and see Fran. And I didn't really know what to expect. Met Chris and we had some pizza. And the funniest part is we pulled up and I said, we got to wait for Chris. And Maria goes, well, there's Fran sitting with the ladies. Well, I certainly don't want to interrupt him. And so we went up and we met Fran, and the ladies were saying, okay, coach, you have a nice dinner, and okay, coach, and you up, and he's going, okay, Mindy and Mitzi and Boopsie and whatever. And I'm just like going, wow, I hope I'm that good at 83. So we had a nice visit, and we started talking about some of our old stories about the '79 team, which you guys have probably heard way too much about. We were pretty good, but we started talking about some of the intricacies of that, like Doc Doolittle, who's here today, and it's good to see you, Doc, and Dave Hess, and Eric Pedley, and Chucky Wesco, and Scott Denman, and Joe Amorese, and Timmy Marsh, and blah blah blah. And in the middle of the conversation, we're talking about, I think we were talking about the Central game, which we were up, I think 78-0 or something. And if he could have put the band leader into quarterback, he would have, because he didn't want to blow anybody out. Fran pulls down his glasses and gives me one of these. Just so you know, I knew everything you guys were doing. Put him back up. And I'm looking at him going, I look at Maria and I'm going, oh shit, I didn't know everything we were doing. And we were quite a crew that pushed the envelope quite a bit, led by his #1 son and #2 son. And Vaughn was close behind. Anyways, that's my little story about Fran. And if anybody would else like to come up now and say something, please do. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
So the microphone is on, should be used, right? My name is Loretta Maria Teresa Angeline. Fran's dad, Frank, and my dad were brothers. My dad was John Angeline Magua, which makes me Fran's first cousin and probably the only one of that era of cousins able to be here. I live in San Antonio and felt like I needed to come to represent the family. So Fran was 13 years older than me, a little distant as a cousin. We didn't really grow up together. But he was my Latin teacher in high school. I graduated in 1965. That wasn't a bad football year either, by the way. But throughout high school, I took Latin from Fran, Mr. Angeline, of course. And we had the same last name. So I was under a little extra pressure to get my Latin lessons correct. And when there was a particularly difficult passage or something, I would always raise my hand, and he would never call on me because he always knew I wouldn't have the answer. But the story that I wanted to share is at my graduation, the announcement was made that Frank and Lee Angeline of Angeline's Flower Shop were making an award on behalf of Fran Angeline for the Latin Scholar of the Year in that graduating class, and it goes to Loretta Angeline. And there's a murmur through the crowd. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? My name is Bill Huther, H-U-T-H-E-R. My wife, Carol. Carol, you stand for just a second. The reason I'm having her stand is that he was my best man in our wedding. Fran was, and we were going to get married in October, but he was best man, and we had to wait till after the Vestal game. I think it was Vestal. This is 76. Okay. I have one or two notes, but I can handle this, I think. He was my roommate at Colgate. He loved popcorn. I can't really remember how we made popcorn then, but we went to the movies. He was more than a football coach. He had, as you know, so many interests. We used to go to see Marlon Brando on the waterfront. He's only seen it about 20 times. I did see it 20 times. He could quote every line, Marlon Brando, in the old days. He had the ability, I know from his scouting trips when he was coaching football, that he would rearrange or organize those trips based on the places they go to eat. It worked around everything that he was doing, scouting. I spent a lot of time on Church Street, where Frank and Leah lived, and Fran. I can't remember his brother's. Rick lived. And I'm sitting next to somebody that lived right in the neighborhood on Church Street. And then down on Mercer Avenue. Spent a lot of time I was fortunate enough to play some basketball for Zappias, and then play some tennis with Fran down here. But we always kept in touch. Most of it was about family. Chris, Larry, Vaughn. There's a story about Frank when Colgate had a scrimmage one day against Penn State. Father Frank, he always had the camera. He was always taking pictures. And they had the scrimmage at Colgate, and I believe that the coach for Penn State was Rip Engel. Some of you know the name from the past and so on. And Rip Engel said, there's somebody to the coach, to Hal Lair, who Fran loved, who was our coach at Colgate. I didn't play football, but Frank is taking pictures up in the stand, and Rip Engel said, who is stealing our place? And so on and so on. And Fran said, don't worry about it, it's just my father taking pictures. He had the old camera. One other thing I was going to say, I don't want to bore you. Oh, there was one day that I don't know where I was at the time, but Fran came back from football practice at Colgate. Of course, he could come back from football practice and sit down at the piano and play the piano. He could talk to anybody about Shakespeare, quotations, about his class, his Latin class or German class, that we're going to go out and sing at Christmas time. So he was, what was I going to say? What? Oh, about Hal Lair?
No, he was coming back from a bad practice.
Oh, he came back. The football team came back from a bad practice, and the coach, Hal Lair, who we loved, told him that they were going to have the next day off. And typical Fran went to the coach and said, you know, we've had a bad day. I'm requesting that we practice tomorrow. It was the day, and they did. But that's Fran. A couple of more things. Hope I'm not boring you. I think anything I might have missed was said in the obituary, and all the comments from all of you. Want to thank Chris for all the family has done. And Vaughn, good seeing you. Larry, good seeing you. And he will be missed.